Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of GameHammer Daily. Now today we're doing something a little different. Normally we would take one game and have a look at several versions of it and see which one's best and how they're all different. But today we're actually going to do things a bit different. We've got the N64 and the PlayStation 2 and we're looking at one type of game, and that's Madden NFL. So let's get straight into it. I first encountered Madden back in the early 90s when a friend was playing it on his Mega Drive. It seemed a decent enough rendition of American football for the time, and it was certainly better than the version of the game that Amsoft had put out on the Amstrad CPC, but it never drew me in. I didn't understand the rules of American football back then, and my friend's ultra-competitive streak when playing games didn't help me learn, so I just dismissed the game entirely and went back to my usual platform and beat-em-up gaming. Now, since it's the start of the new NFL season, I thought it would be the perfect time to sit down with my PlayStation 2 and Nintendo 64 to give the Madden games on those systems a try. We'll be going in chronological order to see how the games have developed over time, so let's start with the N64, and it's appropriately titled Madden Football 64. There are two Madden games on the Nintendo 64. The first is Madden Football 64, which was released in 1997, and is a rather uncommon title to find these days, no doubt thanks to the fact that there were lower sales of the N64 in the UK, combined with the far lower popularity of American football here in the UK. The second is Madden NFL 99, which is an awful lot harder to find. I don't have that second title, so we'll be covering the first one only. The game itself is presented really well. The standard play-by-play options that you would expect from a modern American football game are all here, and the controls are mostly rather good. It takes a while to get used to playing it on the N64 controller, thanks to the common use of B, A and the down C button, which is much different to the normal diamond of control buttons that I'm used to on other systems' controllers. But once you've got it all worked out in your head, this is a decent enough game. Graphically, it's impressive. Everything looks pretty good, and while the players can seem a little chunky at times, especially on the replays, you won't mind that one bit when you're actually playing. The sound is great, everything is perfectly clear, and the music is brilliant too. I like this one. It's a good American football game, and especially considering that it's on a cartridge, the fact that it's got a lot of detail, some good graphics and excellent sound, that is very impressive to me. I actually really do like this one, and if you want an American football game on your N64, I do recommend this one. So, since I can't show you the second of the N64 Madden titles, let's jump forward 4 years and get straight to what the PlayStation 2 can do. The first Madden game on the PlayStation 2 here in the UK was Madden NFL 2001. It would be the first of 9 games released for the PS2 in the UK, although they would continue to be released on the system in other regions. With the move to a new system, you can expect some upgrades to the look and feel of the game, and that's exactly what you got here. The basic structure of Madden hasn't changed. You've still got all the options that you had in the N64 version, and the basic gameplay hasn't altered all that much, as you would expect when both of these games are actually based on a real-life sport. There's only so much variety you can have, after all. Graphically, there are fewer improvements than I would have expected, but maybe that's just because this is not a whole lot that really could have changed if we're honest with ourselves. The players are more rounded, and they definitely look more realistic, and the video resolution is improved, but apart from that, it looks and plays pretty much the same. The sound is an improvement, however. Going from a cartridge to a CD for the game has definitely allowed for more sound files to be added, and the quality is noticeably improved. And this is where the PS2 wins out the most over the N64 version. And yes, I did say CD. The game wouldn't move over to the DVD format for another 2 years. Now, this feels like you're actually playing a game of American football. With the commentators talking and the crowd cheering, it sounds, from the player perspective, as if you're playing a game of football that you're watching on TV. It's pretty good. And it helps with the sounds of the players being improved as well, because that really does sell the feeling that you're actually there. All in all, this is a good version of the game with nice controls. I really prefer the PS2's control layout to the N64, I'll give you that. And it's got lots of atmosphere to it as well. I do like this one. With the second entry onto the PlayStation 2, it feels like the Madden team have actually got to grips with the new console. This version doesn't feel like just a slightly enhanced PlayStation 1 game. There's a lot more commentary on this one, the controls are smoother, it's very responsive, and the game looks good. This feels like a PlayStation 2 game. Gameplay-wise, it's much the same as in the previous version, as you'd probably expect by this point, but on the whole, the entire experience just feels far more polished than before. This is a great update. It feels like the developers really know what they're doing now with the PlayStation 2, and they've made something that's a lot of fun to play. Out of the two that we've looked at so far on the PlayStation 2, this is a noticeable improvement. But then came Madden NFL 2003. And this is the first Madden game to use the PlayStation 2's ability to read game data from a DVD, and it shows.
EA Sports, it's in the game.
Madden NFL 2003.
The intro contains video footage rather than just relying on CGI, and the range of commentator phrases seems far more diverse. Also, the commentators now actually feature John Madden. That's good. There's also now a rumble feature, which I can't say I noticed in the previous versions, so if it was there, it wasn't quite as in your face. It doesn't really work for me as a feature in my view, because it kind of takes me out of the game and reminds me that there's a controller in my hands, but I'm sure some people liked it. Gameplay-wise, there's not a massive difference in this one versus the previous entries. The graphics are nicer, and they feel more refined than in previous versions, and the controls are fluid, but the game still feels an awful lot like the older ones did. Maybe things will change more in the future versions, but for now, this feels an awful lot like it was more of a tweak and an enhancement for the DVD upgrade than a major change to the game itself. With Madden NFL 2004, the graphics have been tweaked again, and it seems like the players are a little smaller now than they were in Madden 2003. The game feels like it's a little more difficult to play as well, not in terms of options or challenges or changes to the controls, just in terms of the overall difficulty level. It's like the AI has been improved quite noticeably, in fact. There's definitely more of a challenge here than in the previous games. Now, by this point, you may have noticed that I'm not discussing the season or management gameplay modes, and there's a good reason for that. I wouldn't know where to start with all of that stuff. I'm not a big American football fan, and I don't have a hugely in-depth knowledge of the sport at hand to be able to properly critique that side of the game. I'm going for a comparison of the gameplay between the individual games here on a basis of how does this game feel when playing a game of a football match in each version. In that respect, Madden 64, Madden 2002 and Madden 2003 are coming out the best for me so far, and it's probably Madden 64 or Madden 2002 that is the most enjoyable overall. It's hard to decide between the two in terms of gameplay, but on the overall feel front, it's probably 2002 for me at this stage. So let's keep checking on the remaining titles and we'll see if the franchise can make a comeback for the next version. Now, as you can see, there are some differences between the gameplays on the different versions of the game in different years, but the main thing is, it's unlike FIFA. The FIFA series, they were changing how they showed it, how their different styles work, different cameras, all kinds of different things. The Madden series, they really focused down very quickly on what worked and how to present that type of game. So the different versions are actually, well, it's not visually different, is it? It's more the gameplay mechanics, the behind the scenes stuff, things that you don't see while actually playing a game of American football, and also the extra features, things like the club management, the way you can develop your players, things like that, stuff that I haven't really focused on for this because that wasn't the purpose of this video comparison. But the actual game mechanic, there are differences, like Madden 2004 was an awful lot more, there was a bit more feel to it, there was a bit more competition to it. The game is a little more difficult to play because the AI is improved compared to the other ones, which are a little more easygoing, a little easier on the player. So, if you're looking for something that's really quite difficult and a bit of a challenge to play, here, for example, you've played a few in the past and didn't find any of them too challenging, try 2004 compared to the older ones. It might give you more of a challenge and make the game a bit more enjoyable for you. If you find that it's not quite to your liking for these later ones, go back to an earlier one, you might find it's a bit better. But we're not finished because We've still got 5 more. So let's get straight back in with Madden 2005. They absolutely made a comeback this year. Madden NFL 2005 is a brilliant game. This one is by far the best version that we've had so far. The graphics have clearly been tweaked and the players look far less blocky than in the 2004 game. The camera has also been zoomed out by quite a way, which makes the players look a lot smaller on the screen, but it isn't a disadvantage because it allows you to see more of the action that's going on across the pitch. The AI has had a definite improvement and now feels far closer to watching a game as well as playing one. I found myself really getting into the match with this game, which I have to say I didn't do anywhere near as much with the previous games. I really enjoyed playing this one. The only downside that I've seen on this version is the oddity of the progress bar not quite fitting into the area that it's clearly designed for on the loading screen. It's a bit of an oversight, but I think we can put that minor fault to one side for now. So far, it's been Madden 64 and Madden 2002 that I probably would have recommended the most, but Madden 2005 beats all of them. Out of all the entries that we've looked at so far, this is the one to play. In response to ESPN NFL 2K5 cutting so deeply into the sales of Madden NFL 2005, EA bought an exclusive license for the NFL games, which feels like a massive overreaction, but that's EA for you. The result was that, for the next year's game, the first to arrive on the Xbox 360, EA didn't have a big competitor to worry about. And it's clear from the start that this meant they didn't have to try as hard. I'm sorry guys, but this is basically Madden 2005 all over again, only now there's a weird quarterback vision mode that's supposed to make passing more realistic by restricting the best passing accuracy to a cone in front of the quarterback, which simulates his field of vision. Now, I get what they were going for with that, but in my view, it didn't seem to do anything except make passing a bit more complicated for no great gain in terms of gameplay. I didn't like it, but it doesn't really get in the way too much, so the core enjoyable game from the 2005 version is still here. That really does seem to be the whole of it for this version though. It's an incremental update at best, as far as I can see, and at the time, I would have said stick with Madden 2005, but now, with these older games going for pretty much the same price if you're picking one up now, I'd say pick up either 2005 or 2006, based on whichever is available to you at the time, because you're going to get a fun game, and a very playable game either way, but if you have the option, 2005 is still the better one to pick up. So, we have 3 titles left on the PlayStation 2. Will Madden coast to the end of the line, or will they produce a nicely improved game like they did with 2005? Let's take a look at those remaining titles and find out. In many ways, Madden NFL 2007 is another incremental update. The game looks and feels an awful lot like Madden 2006, but it plays very well and I do like it. There are new systems for determining power and accuracy for kicks this year, and I'm not entirely sure that works. In previous games, you pressed X to initiate the kick meter in the bottom left of the screen. You then pressed X again to try to stop the moving bar in the right part of the meter to determine the best power to put behind your kick, and then you pressed X a third time when the power bar dropped back into the right region to get an accurate kick. It's a system that had worked well for golf games before the introduction of analog stick swings, and it worked well here too. This new system has you flicking the right analog stick in certain directions as indicated on the kick meter in the bottom left of the screen. It's a weird system, and while I can kinda see what they were going for, because your accuracy is now determined by your coordination rather than your ability to time button presses, I don't think it feels right for this kind of game. It works in a golf game, it doesn't feel right for football. Aside from that, Madden NFL 2007 is another decent game. I wouldn't say this was an essential purchase for football fans because the actual gameplay doesn't feel like it is improved enough over 2005 or 2006, but if this game is your introduction to the Madden series, I don't see it being a bad one. I enjoyed playing it, just not enough to recommend it over Madden 2005. Okay, with Madden 2008, this one is another step forward. It feels like the gameplay has been tweaked just that little bit, and the AI is certainly improved. Graphically, it's very much like the previous entries in the series, and the commentary is certainly nothing new. In fact, the same problem here with saying New England in a way that just doesn't fit with the rest of the commentary is still present. which makes the introduction to any game when New England are playing really jar.
New York squares off against New England.
But aside from that, it's a solid game. The golf-like kick meter is still present, but it feels like this one has been refined a little so that it isn't quite as big a problem as it was before. I still prefer the old-style meter, but at least they are making attempts to improve this one. It's not a major improvement like Madden 2005 seemed to be, but it is a significant step forward compared to 2006 and 2007. If you have a choice of which to pick up, it should be this or 2005. It's great. Okay, so we're now at the end. Madden NFL 2009 is the final Madden game released on the PlayStation 2 in the UK. The 20th game in the Madden series. This one removes the quarterback vision system that never really worked for me in these games, but which has managed to stick around since Madden 06. Like I said when we took a look at that game, it never really got in the way, but it just added an extra layer of complexity that didn't really make the game all that more realistic, so losing it is no real loss. The golf-style kick meter is still here, sadly, but it feels a little bit more refined even than the 2008 version, and now I'm starting to see that this kind of works. I'd still prefer the original version, but this particular implementation of the new style is one that I can deal with more. I won't say I like it, but I don't mind it anymore. Graphically, there doesn't seem like a lot's changed over the previous version, aside from some minor tweaks. The highlight on your player's name has changed, making it more easy to identify who you're controlling at a glance, which makes some situations where there's a lot of action on the field a little easier to work out, and that is a good plus. All in all though, this feels like a minor update over Madden 2008, but that's not a bad thing, because the quarterback vision system is gone, and the tweaks that I did spot are definitely welcome. As a result, this is probably the best version of Madden to play on the PlayStation 2. As a final entry in the series for here in the UK, it is definitely not a bad game to go out on. If you want an American football game for your PlayStation 2 and you can find it, get a copy of Madden 2009, it is the one to play. And there you have it, guys. Overall, it's, wow, there's an awful lot of Madden football. And this only goes up to 2009. I've stopped purposefully at the end of the PlayStation 2 era in the UK. They stopped at 2009. I know they went on further on PlayStation 2, and they certainly went on further with later consoles, but I thought the end of the UK's PAL release for PlayStation 2 was a good place to end today. So I hope you have enjoyed this comparison, and like I said before, we're only looking at how the actual gameplay of playing a game of American football works in these games to see which one is the best for pick up and play. If you're really into your Maddens, there will be other videos on how the in-depth franchise system and all of that works, but today I just wanted to focus on the actual game itself. So I hope you have enjoyed this, and if you have, remember to click that like button, share it with your friends so that they'll know a good game when they see it, and do subscribe for future videos, because as I say, there will be more in the future. But until next time, I've been Kirk-Robinson. I'll see you tomorrow for another GameHammer Daily. Bye!